broadcasting through the depths of outer space.
Hello, I'm alive. I don't know what's going on.
By your command.
Fascinating.
God damn you all to hell!
It's the Solar Sci-Fi Podcast. This is episode 74 of the Solar One Sci-Fi Podcast already, episode 74. I'm Michael Ball, and I'm with my good sci-fi expertise from America and the UK. First of all, this week again from America, it's my good friend, Tom Julian. Hello, Tom.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, thanks for coming on. And all the way from sunny London, because I know it's sunny today, because it's lovely over here. Sci-fi expertise again, talks about shows I've never ever heard of and probably would never see, but I still find his channel fascinating. It is Martin.
Thank you
Fowler.
very much.
Hello, Martin. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm all right. Up and down. But as you can see, I've got a British icon versus the ultimate killer in the universe, Pat Butcher versus Predator.
All right, we better explain this to our American friends. Okay, Pat Butcher, Tom.
Thank you for doing the artwork for this.
It was a very, very quick thing. Basically, Pat Butcher is on a soap opera in the UK called EastEnders. I had this silly idea of putting her as if she was fighting the Predator. But of course, this is so apt because we're doing Predator today anyway. And so I think it's a bit rough, but Martin quite likes it. So I take that as a compliment.
I think it's lovely. I think the scale makes it look like he's this. It makes it look like they're the size of Godzilla versus Rodan.
When you finish,
a scientific fact that Pat Butcher can take a direct hit by a 1 megaton nuclear bomb and survive it.
Well, you Tom, you'll have to YouTube Pat Butcher on Google and YouTube and see what she's all about. She's a very loud character in a very over-the-top soap opera. With my background this week I've got, because Martin told me about this ages ago, I think it's called Port Merion. It's the village where they filmed The Prisoner with Patrick McGoohan, and I thought it'd be, because I'm trying to do a different background every week. So you have got the village in the background, which I grabbed off the stream about 2 days ago, and you see people walking in the background. I've even put in a few spaceships flying around. You might not see those, but they're there as well. And Tom's got a nice apt picture as well. Tell me about yours, Tom.
Yeah, this is me on a bicycle ride a couple of years ago. You can see I've got nice legs in this photo. But that's me, and I was racing an Amish buggy, and the young Amish guy and his wife, they're probably in their early 20s. They kept, she was egging him on to beat me in the race. Like we were going like 22 miles an hour down this road in central Pennsylvania. It was just great. And after about 3 or 4 miles, I pulled over and we had a nice laugh for a minute, and they were telling me how fast I was going, and I told them I love their horse and all that kind of stuff. But it was a blast.
We were talking before we started recording about how fascinated we are with the Amish community, me and Martin. And I almost had the chance of going to see a community last year before COVID came down. And hopefully when we eventually do the trip, we will have that chance again. But yeah, fascinating. There's so many stories about the Amish community and how they've started to almost cut out sort of technology, and they've got their old-fashioned traditions, but they're good traditions. And they just simply do not embrace technology. And it's quite an interesting perspective. And I think it's fascinating.
Well, I wish I had the photo to show you guys, but during this bike ride, I also saw like the Amish folks burning peat. In this big, gigantic fire off in the middle of this field, and in the background of them was the cone of a nuclear power plant, like 15 miles away. So it was like the Amish in front of the nuclear power plant.
Oh my gosh!
It was the coolest thing ever. It was just like centuries. And I just wonder what they look it up. They look at us and see the folly, and we look at them and see the folly. It's
a fascinating stuff. It's fascinating how a whole community in a technologically advanced country like America decides to have their own way of dealing with things and sticking to that. And I find that fascinating. The one thing about American history I've always been fascinated with was, I was never much of a history buff, but I was always fascinated with the Native American culture and how obviously when predominantly the white people came over from Europe, started to colonize, how of course it was eventually their territory was taken, and the American Native American culture was that they lived off the land. They had almost like a symbiotic relationship with the land. They took everything as almost spiritual, and they didn't overuse things. They found an interesting balance with their world. And of course, I find that fascinating.
I've got a quick story. A friend of mine that travelled around America accidentally ended up on a reservation.
Oh, really?
And he had to pay. He had to pay some kind of respect. They were really nice people, but they put him in this tent for 2 days and got him hammered.
Oh, okay, that's all right.
Wow.
With chief at tribe and that. He said they were fantastic people, but he'd walked onto their land. I don't know, something in the customs, and they took him to this tent and got him absolutely wrecked.
I hear that a lot of the cultures now, they have like quite a strong influence on drugs and alcohol and things like that. I think there is a negative aspect of modern.
No, this is all positive. This for all positive. They've got the smoke going and in the tent, and you find yourself. It's that spiritual.
They're getting stoned and stuff. Yeah, that's interesting.
Well, okay.
That's cool. Tom, and you got my little Coke Cloud action figure apparently as well.
I did. Let me pull him up. Can you see him?
Yeah,
I saw that the other day, Tom.
But Tom,
cool.
Guess what? Mine's bigger.
Oh, that's what she said.
Exactly.
I love it. Yeah.
Martin, I can't send you one. I haven't got your address.
I don't. Yeah, when you sort the Pat Butcher thing out, I'm going to order T-shirts.
Are you really going to do it? You're going to get a Pat Butcher T-shirt?
Yeah, you can put the.
I'll put the.
You want a T-shirt?
Yeah, I do if you're offering. Okay, I'll tell you what. And I'll send you a Coke.
My wife wasn't sure what this was. She was wondering if I was getting into like smuggling heroin or anything. But thank you so much for sending this.
Oh, it's just a funny thing.
Made my week.
It's a bit of fun. It's nice to sort of share things, and like I said, it's the idea for my channel. I printed off a few of these, and they're quite funny. So I'm glad thank you, Tom. I'm glad you liked it, and it gave me a laugh giving it over to you. Right, guys,
Can we call this episode Solar One Podcast versus Predator, since everything has been versus Predator? The Amish Predator, Martin versus Predator.
Yeah, it's definitely versus something. I mean, at the end of the show, we're going to have Predator the Musical, which Martin's heard before, which is the most bizarre thing you've ever come across on YouTube. But as we were saying, we did used to feature a lot of these early episodes, Predator versus. We have Predator versus Pat Butcher, going back to Marty's image there.
Yep.
So we have done that in the past. Mr. Worf, Captain Kirk.
Yep.
Did we do Han Solo? We did all sorts of characters.
And Mr. Motivator.
Terminator as well. I think we did the Terminator.
That'd be a good one.
But of course, these were our early shows when they were audio, and of course, what I love about the new shows is that they're video as well, which makes it much more enjoyable. Although, of course, there is an audio rip of this as well for the pod poster site. So this should be fun. Maybe we could talk about a few of the previous Alien Predator. We should say Alien Predator versus in our old segments. Right, shall we go into our topic a little bit, guys? Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. This should be an interesting one. Here we go.
It's the
Solar Sci-Fi
focus of the week.
All right, so this is a film which I got into. Let me quickly say, first of all, and I'll ask your opinions in a sec. The reason I first saw this film was that it was only quite shortly after I got into the Arnold Schwarzenegger sort of films, like the Terminator films. And of course, it was a very, very big film. I think it was 1987. I'm going to pull up the details while you two talk about your opinions of it. It was a big film in the UK. I think it must have done very good in the box office. I don't know how well it did in the States. You know, some films are successful, but it must have been huge by the perspective of it.
It was huge.
I was always amazed at just how cool it was. It was an amazing thing is it was ripped off afterwards by lots of shows. Deep Space Nine did an episode with Tosk, which was very similar to an alien. Well, it was an alien being hunted by bounty hunters, or like bounty hunters kind of thing. But so before I go into deep sort of aspects about what I think about it, let's ask you, Tom, as you're on showing me at the moment. What do you think about Predator, the original film?
I think it's one of those genre creating films that, like, films like Alien, that sort of invents itself. There's a million imitators of it, just like there are a million imitators of Blade Runner. So it really steps out and it says, hey, this is a new thing. And it's one of those amazing things that could only exist in the 80s, like Die Hard and Aliens and everything Schwarzenegger did, so it's very to me it's genre defining, but it's also really surprising. There's one thing about it that bothers me. It's always bothered me is the like the first scene they show like a spaceship landing. What I thought would be so awesome if they had not shown that, and then because you basically know what's going on.
You're right there, because I was going to mention that the one flaw in that film is the opening scene. They should never have put that in there, because that identifies it straight away.
But wasn't that very similar?
The only flaw in that movie.
I was going to say, because that was a very similar start to The Thing. The 82 version of The Thing had a very similar beginning with a ship heading towards Earth, although that one crashed, and it had a similar feel to, okay, something's coming. And then it obviously goes. But as you both say, it could have been that it was completely unknown as to what was in the jungle rather than extraterrestrial warrior kind of thing. So I agree with you, Tom.
Yeah. So they would have. It would have been a reveal like 30 minutes into the movie, because they had this whole thing in the beginning where they're, fighting some, I don't know, doing a rescue mission or something. They're shooting people.
But do you think
would have been pretty cool to have that be revealed?
But do you think that they did that because most people knew that the Predator was going to be in the film as an extraterrestrial warrior? Do you think that's rather than the Predator? I don't know.
I don't know.
You know what I mean? I just wondered whether that was the factor, because if you didn't know,
ultimately I think it would have. In that sense, it would have. Everyone would have known going into the movie what it was about. But it still would have been cool to have that. For people watching the film years later, like, oh wow, okay, this is I don't know what's going on here. It looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger in the jungle. I wonder what's going to happen, and then you realize it's the Predator. But for me, that was the only thing basically the only thing about the movie that I just like it. Sci-fi and adventure for the 80s. That the invisible suits.
Yeah, like a cloaking device.
The way that all his technology sort of works with him, and it's very cool. It's very cool.
Yeah. I will just point out, Tom, that you did slightly break up in that. We did hear what you said, but just to be aware that it's slightly unstable, but it's fine. You're fine. Just to give you a heads up. Okay, Martin, what did you think about it?
Thanks.
How did you come across it?
I think it's one of the greatest science fiction films of all time. One of them.
I know. I'm surprised we've not reviewed this sooner after all those segments talking about Predator versus over the first 6 months that we did this show. So how did you hear about it? Did you go and see it in the cinema? Did you hear it from friends?
I went to see it at the cinema, and I agree with Tom. It's so the Odeon must have got it 87.
Yeah, 87. Yeah.
And I would say it, and I was totally blown away. I mean, you've got all the macho bravado shit in it, which you just love. They're not going to make them like that anymore.
No.
I mean, the Indian guy, he's like this indestructible killing machine. He gets done in like 2 minutes. It never makes any sense when they leave him on a log and he cuts his chest, because he can say he knows something's there. The woman they find, she's going on about some jungle creature that's meant to kill people. And it, to where it's part of where she's from, and then you've got all the other characters, and then the fight scene is just spectacular. The whole film is fantastic. They get the creepiness into it. The macho stuff works. The film is just perfect. I never stop watching it. I must watch it 3-4 times a year. The sequels are terrible. I did like 2. I thought 2 were brilliant. But the first one is just a masterpiece, and they've never being able to replicate that fully.
Well, that was going to be my next question to you both. Do you think that with so many sequels, and even the Alien versus Predator sequels, that in some ways that damaged the original's legacy, or do you see it as just like something which you can either take it or leave it kind of thing?
For me, yeah, I when there's a lousy sequel, it doesn't damage the original for me. Especially, it's different creative teams, so I don't think it hurt the original. The sequel's okay. The second one's okay.
Yeah,
I think the Alien vs Predator ones are just lousy. There's nothing good about them. Like I mean, I don't even remember what they're about.
Well, it's a strange one because I was a big fan of the Alien franchise as well.
Yeah, me too.
So of course it was a really fascinating idea, especially at the end of Predator 2, where you do see a xenomorph endoskeleton as one of the trophies, like a skeleton. So they obviously led up to that. They thought about it before they made it. But
the history of that Predator versus Aliens.
It was in the comic, wasn't it?
Comic.
Yeah, I remember
comics.
That. Yeah,
and the first comic really set all this up, and I don't know why they never went with that, because it's Colonial Marines, Predators, and Aliens, and it's the graphic novel's a classic, and yet they've just not followed that. Now the Aliens versus Predator, the first one, I quite
like the first one.
I didn't mind it. I like the thing of the tempo.
The second one's terrible. The second one is terrible. The first one, it had the original guy that Wayland as well, who of course would have
Lance.
I liked all that. Yeah. Lance Henriksen was good.
Those are okay. I mean, but that's the thing, is that at least the first one is fine. You know what I mean? It's neither really all that great or bad. Certainly, I think it's underwhelming regardless.
I agree with you.
You know what I mean? It's like you put peanut butter and chocolate together, and that's usually great. But in this sense, it's sort of bland, and then gets worse over time. So that's I think the problem with it.
I just think the thing like the Predator should be respected. I mean, they've created something amazing here about this race of creatures that. Like in Predator 2, the actor with the blonde hair, it's Gary Busey. He said, they're here on safari. He's quite funny how he came out, his analogy of them, but there's a race of culture and thousands of years of history here, and their whole society's dedicated to hunting. Whether they're evil or good, there's that question in there. They're doing what's instinctive to them, and that's what I love about this film. That's what I love about the Predator.
I mean, it's a very unique icon. I mean, there's another two Predator films which I have seen, but I really can't recall, which are Predators and The Predator. Okay, guys, what do you think about those?
I saw those.
Which is the one with Royce where they're on that planet? Is that Predator?
I think that was Predator. Yeah.
What's neat about that? Yeah, that one.
Mind that.
Yeah. What's neat about that one is it's the Predators refers to the humans, because it turns out you learn slowly over time that they're all like gangsters or serial killers or all kinds of things, and you realize that the humans are the predators. Which I thought was kind of neat. And I like that things aren't necessarily explained; they're just dumped there, and they have to figure it out.
But didn't you find though, Tom, that like with the first one with that simple flaw in it, that we knew it was an alien, whereas in Predators with Royce, the human guy, that as soon as you watched it, you knew they were on another planet. That was meant to be like some kind of mind-blowing. Wow, they're on
revelation
in the jungle. It just didn't do it, did it?
No.
It didn't. That should have been the moment. Oh, they're on another planet. And did you like it when they brought in the Super Predator? Because I know we're going to go into that hideous movie they made, the last one, which I just don't.
I can't remember it. I think it was awful though.
Yeah, I kind of saw some trailers of it and realized, oh man, this is just that they've really diluted it for the Predator film.
Okay, are you two? You're breaking up a bit at my end. Can you all hear each other? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you all perfectly. Yeah,
that's fine. I think it's just Tom slightly broke up.
Just got the sun coming in through.
Yeah, I can see that. Tom, do you want to just quickly say that last bit again, in case it doesn't pick up? Sorry, Tom.
Oh, sorry. I felt the later film, the Predator, was kind of a diluted try at making another Predator movie. I think the genre had kind of run itself out.
Okay, right. So, the one thing I need to ask you guys, what do you think? One thing I'm surprised about. Oh, hang on. Can you both hear me? Sorry, I've got a problem with my end.
Yeah, we can hear you.
That's fine. It might be my end. Are you surprised that they've not actually made a TV series of Predator in some form?
Do you mind if I go to the top? Do you mind if I go to the top?
Oh no! I mean, I'm surprised. I mean,
I've got
That's
some
a good
bad
question.
News. I've got some bad news for you. Something. Carry on.
what's that? No, I was asking.
No, carry on.
Well, no, because I mean, I would have thought that, like they did with the Terminator, they made the Sarah Connor Chronicles. I would have thought that would be ripe for a TV series of some sort.
It could be happening. Because,
it could be happening.
Well, guess who owns Predator now? Disney.
Yeah.
He'll get to fight Loki.
Well, we're going to talk about that in the news. I've not seen it.
The Predator. It's looking like the Predator could be entering the Marvel universe. I'm being serious.
Oh, you're joking?
Yeah. I read it. I've read it on CBI. It was on. They're bringing him into Marvel Comics now, so there's some plan to do it, and there's rumours about.
That sounds like a clever
I think
idea.
I'm quite excited about it because I think they've milked the Predator franchise with the old Fox film. They've milked it. I mean, after the last one, there's nowhere to go. Now there is a new Predator movie being made right now. I think they've
is
started
there? You're
filming
kidding?
it.
They're making another
You
one.
know about that?
No.
If you go to Mr. X reviews, he's right up on it. Apparently, it's set 700 years in the past. It's set during. It's before. It's set during when the American Red Indians. It's a tribe of them, and it's going to be It's a woman in the tribe who fights the Predator because it's hunting this tribe down of American Red Indians, and. It's going to be set in that time, which I think is now that could be interesting. But the protagonist to fight the Predator is this woman. It's going to be a woman that's going to beat the Predator.
Wow,
But isn't
that's
it?
interesting.
It is interesting.
Yeah,
but
Google
isn't
it. It's online. Google it, honestly.
But isn't it a bit of a limited premise? I mean, how many times can you have a film with a Predator fighting somebody?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to mention. Is that the whole concept of these films, Alien, Predator, to a larger extent, Terminator. What's interesting about them is the fact that the creatures behave in certain ways, and they just keep rerunning them over and over again.
That's what I'm saying. It's going around in circles, isn't it? It keeps.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You can basically diagram an Alien film and say, okay, here's some dum-dums stumble upon the eggs, and somebody gets caught, and then they turn into an alien, and a bunch of people die, and at the end, they're fighting the aliens. And that's pretty much what happens in every one of these movies. And there's never what I actually think is kind of cool about TV is that they can't do that. You know what I mean? It has to be an arc that has a larger point, and that's what's never ever happened with any of these films. There's never been a larger point to any of the Predator films or any of the Alien films. It's never anything.
In the last Predator film, when he become Iron Predator, when he had like the Iron Man Predator armor, apparently the Predators were coming to invade the Earth. That's where it. I mean, the time that's going. Well, I don't know. I mean, I agree. I think you're both right. I mean, where do you go with this now? It turns up, stalks somebody, kills them, or it gets killed.
And that's the end.
Film
and it's the same thing again. Yeah.
If you're going to do something with them, even with this new one that's set in the past, it turns up, it's going to hunt this tribe down. Once somebody in the tribe is going to stand against it, defeat it, and that's it. And where do we go with it from here? We've had the alien thing, and that. I mean, what's next for Predator? I mean, you do both make an amazing point. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Where do you go with it after that?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, the way to do it is that the whiz-bangy stuff that you like about Alien, Predators, whatever, moves into the background, and a larger, more interesting story comes into the foreground. And that's kind of what happens with the Sarah Connor Chronicles, is that it became more about the relationship with the mother and the son. And
the Sarah Connor Chronicles, which we've not featured yet, but we will do a show on that, was very well written. I really enjoyed it, and it left on a it finished on the cliffhanger, and it did expand the universe in some interesting directions. Unfortunately, it got cancelled, and we got the one season. But I really enjoyed the Sarah Connor Chronicles. And it's surprising, you know. So you can do things. You can do things if you have the right
Wouldn't it be
writers.
good to look? Wouldn't it be good to look at like Predator Society? I mean, we've never seen a female Predator. I know
Yeah.
the comics.
I mean, there's. I hate
It's
to.
the
I hate
lady
to
predators, you know. I
right.
mean,
I hate to push my own work, but you know, there's a lot of in my stories. There's a lot of whiz bangy cool stuff. We have the creatures that I've created in my books, but I don't put them as being the stars of the show. Like there's broader things going on, and it really makes them a part of the universe as opposed to the central, you know, driving reason for being, which I think is what happens with these kind of. The Predator is got to be there, and there has to be a showdown at the end, and you could basically write these movies on the back of a napkin.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be a good idea? Like I agree with you, Tom. Like about I said, like with your characters, they're all part of they're all in like a bigger picture, but they're all playing a role within that picture. It's all going somewhere. Wouldn't it be best like if you set up like a Predator movie with like some conspiracy with Wayland Yutani in the future, like and like there's something not Aliens vs Predator, but like there's some big conspiracy around the whole Predator mythos, and there's a dodgy corporate government cover-ups. I mean, there was a few things in there, like how did they get on that planet in Predators being thrown out of a spaceship?
Yeah,
How did the Predators know which people to get hold of? So there must have been some kind of interaction between governments on this planet with them. I mean, there is like little bits there you could take out and put into a much bigger picture. The end of these,
a richer, you know, something richer. You know, ultimately, it's like, okay, you know, everyone's here for the popcorn event, and at the end of the day, it's not as interesting as some of the
I personally, I would like to see more about the Predator culture, i.e., how they became technologically advanced, how they interacted when they went out to the universe. Maybe they encountered other races apart from humanity, and decided why it was so important that they were a hunting species. I mean, like I said, sci-fi. I mean, Star Trek had the Herosian and the Tosk race. Both were very inspired by Predator. A lot of sci-fi shows have got their own versions of the Predator. So I didn't really realize until we started talking today how, in some ways, it's a bit of a limited genre, a bit of a limited. There's only so far you can go. But as I say, if they just stop on just the Predator hunting and look more about its culture, why they decide to hunt, how they reproduce, how they, you know, how they create themselves as a civilization, I'd like to see that, because it's already just there. They're already got these advanced ships. They can go to interplanetary and they can hunt other races. But I would like a bit more of why and what was the incentive initially for them to become this. There was a lot of stuff to fill in for me.
There is a comic series where the engineers, you know, the engineers from Alien.
Yeah.
The builders, where the Predators have a war with them.
Oh no, that would be quite interesting.
I've never read the comic. I've seen it on YouTube. They've been around. You know, after the Prometheus thing, and the Predators, some war with them thousands of years.
That might be interesting. That might be
so funny you mentioned that.
Go on, Tom.
If you recall that was like the most interesting thing of the latter Alien films that they kind of brushed over. You know, remember when they arrived at the alien homeworld and they just like threw out the black goo and killed all those engineers? That was like the most interesting thing about it. And they just decided they wanted to do something different. Yeah. And it was like, you know, it goes back to the same, wanting to run the same play over and over again that worked 30 years ago.
I like Prometheus, and that's a good example, Tom, of obviously Ridley Scott did it, where he tried to make it not just the aliens as xenomorphs, they hunt people, they kill them. They were looking at the backstory of the whole alien universe. I would like to do a show on that. I would love that. I'd love to focus on Prometheus.
Yeah, he did, but he kind of got like halfway up the hill, and then kind of descended send it again, and it didn't work, and it was frustrating. And J.J.
Yes, it
Abrams
was.
was involved, and
Yeah.
we didn't hear any.
The destroyer of worlds, J.J.
I know argument there, I don't think. I mean, he's not exactly popular, is he?
No.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. But I didn't know J.J. Abrams was involved with that, actually. I didn't know he had any involvement at all.
Was he a producer on
Do you mind if I go
that?
through the toilet? Do you mind if I go through the toilet?
J.J. Abrams.
J.J. Abrams was a alien Prometheus. I believe he
Wow.
wrote Prometheus.
I didn't know.
Martin, don't you need to get going soon because you've got this?
Yeah, I've got 3 more minutes and then I'm gonna pull out.
All right. What we'll do soon, we'll actually finish because my Zoom's running out, so we'll finish off.
Yeah,
shall we wrap this up?
I've just got some quick news before I go. I saw a video yesterday. Looks like Stargate's coming back. Amazon are moving on it.
Well, I mean, I was going to bring this up, but MGM have now been bought by Amazon. So, yeah. I mean,
They're looking at Star. Brad Wright's been approached already.
That's fantastic. Yeah, but I mean, let's wrap up before Martin goes. But like I said, a very, very original film was the best. Like I said, in some ways, it didn't need all the sequels. I think the original, like Carl Withers was in it, and the guy that was in the War of the Worlds, he was in it as well. It was a very, very good film. Arnold Schwarzenegger was brilliant, and but I did like the idea of what you both said is whether they needed to show the ship at the beginning. I hadn't really thought about that, whether it was needed. More of a mystery as to how the film went on. I think you both made a good point there. So,
definitely feel they shouldn't have. It would have been a nice reveal later. I mean, think about it this way. Think about sitting your kids down with once they get old enough to watch that kind of movie, and they think it's like a guys in the jungle shoot a bad guy. All of a sudden, this alien coming, and that would be so cool to get kicked. And think about this is the 80s, right? So you didn't have the internet. Things didn't get spoiled the same way. So back in the 80s, if this had been a big surprise, it came 30 minutes in, I think the film would have been richer. It's still a great movie. Nothing like it, but
definitely.
Absolutely.
But it's awesome.
The first one's it's like The Thing is the first one, and Aliens. It's a classic. I mean, just the second one was okay. I liked it. I liked Danny Glover.
Yeah, Danny Glover was good.
Just after that, it just went down toilet, didn't it? And I agree with what you said. Where can you go with it? It's just the same thing over and over again.
You can't do the same thing over and over. It's got to be deeper. It's got to be richer. I mean, if I think of sequels, good sequels, Aliens is a great sequel. Blade Runner sequel. I watched that the other night. It's a great sequel. And all of those films didn't rerun the same play.
No, there was a different spin on it. I quite like
Definitely
the
different.
Tron. I quite like the Tron sequel as well. I thought that was pretty good.
I enjoyed that.
I liked it. It was pretty good. And what's funny about that is that some people criticized it, but then they look back. The original Tron wasn't that great.
No.
But I like the second one. In fact, the soundtrack to that is terrific.
It's very good. Yeah, I've heard the soundtrack.
If you've got a desk job and you need to work on something, I put that.
Put it in the background. Don't blame you.
It is.
Right, guys, I've got to go. I will see
All
you
right,
both. What we talk? What's next week? What's next week's?
Blade Runner. Who was the original Blade Runner?
Yeah,
Blade Runner.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't done Blade Runner, and then we can follow on with the 2049 one in a few weeks' time, Tom.
Absolutely.
All right. So what we'll do is we're going
All right,
everybody.
guys.
I got to get going myself.
All right. So.
All right. Stay safe, guys. Stay
See you next
safe.
week.
Bye.
See you guys. Bye.
Bye. Okay, guys, that's the end of unfortunately they've both had to rush up. So we are going to finish the show today with it's an interesting one here. Like I said, there's not a lot of news. The only other news is obviously, as they were both saying, the MGM is what's this? Let us know the news about your job. Sorry, we got a message there. That's not professional. I was going to say, so MGM have now been bought by Amazon, which is interesting. So as Stargate fans, Martin and me, that should be very interesting. Loki is starting this week. I've not seen it yet, so we're probably going to talk about that next week. So that's going to be interesting. And apart from that, there's not a lot of news again. Everything is still waiting to be made. We're still waiting for production of the new Star Wars films, the new Star Trek series. the Orville, it sort of goes on and on and on. So hopefully soon we'll be able to have some more conversations about that stuff. So I think we'll finish off with today's show. We'll finish off with this is something which we have played before on the podcast, but it was in audio form. Of course, this is now on video as well as audio. Someone on YouTube, I can't remember who they are, they did a musical version of Predator. I don't know how they did it or how they thought about it, but it was very funny. If you're a Predator fan like we are, then you should find this interesting. So we'll be back next week with Solar One Sci-Fi podcast. Thank you very much for joining us as usual. We always have a good laugh, and we'll catch you next week, and live long and prosper. Catch you next time.
It's using the trees, watching and waiting, killing us off one by one. The chopper is close, but this thing is too fast. We won't make it, it's pointless to run. Talk, no more games.
I don't know what it was. The jungle came alive.
Go on.
It happened very fast. Not easy to describe, but you must have wounded it. Unless my eyes deceive, when the big man was killed, its blood was on the leaves.
If it bleeds, we can kill it. She discovered the key. There is proof we can wound it. So repeat after me. If it bleeds, we can kill it.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Yeah, now take a stand.
Here now, take a stand.
We can bring down this bastard.
We can bring down this bastard.
If we stick to the plan. If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Something's out there.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Waiting for us. 2 or 3 men out there at the most. Am I the only one who's awake? I don't believe in goblins and ghosts. Fucking lizard, give me a break.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
An expendable asset.
Yeah, now take a stand.
I woke up, why don't you?
So instead of complaining,
bullshit's not gonna
you should
work.
give us a hand.
I got nothing better to do.
I saw it, goddammit, those eyes, they disappeared. It cut down my friend and it ran while I emptied that gun.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
I saw it, goddammit.
Stop shaving, you don't have a beard.
That thing will come back, and when it does, I'm gonna have me some fun.
If it bleeds,
I'm gonna have me some fun.
If it bleeds, if it bleeds.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
We can pull out the wind.
We can pull out the wind.
Set a trap for the monster.
Set a trap for the monster.
While we still have our skin.
While we still have our skin.
If it bleeds, we can
2
kill
or 3
it.
men out there.
I believe it can
I'm the
fall.
only one who's awake.
When you're feeling downhearted, just remember the call. If it bleeds, we can kill it. If it bleeds, I can kill it. Now it's all up to me. Mud all over my body, so the bastard can't see. It's a solo campaign now. Get revenge for my men. Hawkins, Mac, and Ramirez. Billy, Dylan, and Blair.